So I thought it'd be interesting for us to actually reach out directly to the founder of AutoQuote3D. This is, of course, Felix. Felix, why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction and tell us why you created AutoQuote3D?
Yeah, so I'm Felix. I created AutoQuote3D. I'm one of the founders along with Ken. And the reason I created AutoQuote3D is because when I was running my 3D printing service bureau a while back now, I was looking for something like it, an instant quotation tool that wasn't insanely expensive. And the market is still like that. There's a bunch of instant quotation tools. They're all very expensive, at least in my opinion. $1,000 a month, $500 a month. I mean, I don't think that at that time I would have been able to afford it. I didn't see the value in the software that was available back then. And then, many years later, now that I have the tools, the experience, the knowledge on how to create some, a product that people actually want to use, I decided to go back to my roots, to 3D printing and create Article 3D.
So before you created AutoQuote3D, you said you wanted something like this. What were you doing before you got AutoQuote3D? Before we had this amazing tool to price prints, what were you doing before that?
What everybody else was doing. I was getting files on the email, downloading them, slicing them, giving people quotes, waiting for them to email me back saying, yeah, this looks good, this doesn't look good, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then eventually, once people were actually committed, you would send them a link, and maybe you'd never hear from them. Maybe you do. Yeah, everything was very manual. You use like Excel sheets. Honestly, to be honest, I'm sure many people do this now too. But once I got enough experience, I just kind of looked at the part and I was like, yeah, this looks like $20. This looks like $50 because it just takes so long. And you never know if people are going to convert, especially if they send you, like small parts or something. And that's their first on 3D printing. Those people likely you'll just never hear back from them because they don't know the cost of 3D printing.
Yeah, that's a great point, is that a lot of quotes come in, but not all of them convert. And that's why I think we have that conversion metric on there. We want to see how close we get to getting more conversions. But without diving too much into that, tell me a little bit about who you've made AutoQuotes Ready for, because I know you've kind of made it for yourself. And honestly, for us here at Shop 3D, we use it all the time. But is there a broader audience that you've designed this for?
I think it's really designed for anybody in this business. There are different, tiers, starter, pro, professional, not professional, service bureau, and then enterprise. Depending on the size, you fit into one of those categories, right? The starter pack is, like $15 a month. It's really that is really made for somebody who wants to dip their toes in, maybe try it out without committing too much money. But even the pro plan is $50 a month. Like, what is that? Two, three prints a month that cover that, and think about how much time you save. So it's really meant for businesses, individuals, maybe that want to start a 3D printing business that want to basically make everything more efficient, stop spending so much time on quoting. That's the number one thing with 3D printing businesses. Like, you spend so much time quoting and you never know if you'll get actually an order out of it. So that's who it's designed for. And of course, enterprise level, if you're a library or university, like a really, really big 3D printing business, you might want a more customized solution. And that's what that tier is for.
Yeah, I think I was. We went back back and forth for a little bit, talking about that lower tier at $15. First of all, it's an amazing price to
Yeah.
just get a tool like this and to have all the access. But I think I think your inspiration was to just kind of get it to as many hands as possible because of the multiple uses that were available for everybody who basically does 3D printing. So I think that aggressive pricing strategy really makes it affordable for everybody to use. And I think for us, even if we weren't involved in this, it would be a godsend just to have a tool like this, because it's something that we deal with every day, and it just takes the grind out of it. I wanted to ask you, now you didn't originally you know do focus on software development in your previous career. So tell me a little bit about developing a brand new product from scratch. I'm not a software engineer. I just know what I'd like to use and how it can help me. But tell me a little bit about your journey from going from 3D printing career to software development, and also, the story of how you created AutoQuote 3D. How many versions did you make before you were kind of like, okay, I think it's ready?
Yeah, no, my journey was, mechanical engineering to, sales, like application engineering, sales, technical sales, things like that. And then eventually I decided, I think software was really my original calling. That's what I wanted to go to school for, but then decided, software engineers, they sit on their laptop all the time. They never get up and do stuff. And mechanical engineering, it's going to be different. So that's why I went into that originally. But it turned out that's not the case. You still sit on the computer a lot, but you don't get to see your work materialize in a good pace. If you're in a manufacturing plant, it takes time to make parts. It takes time to get things moving through the pipeline, get approval, get funding, and all those things. But with software, the only thing that software costs these days is time. So, that's, and I love making things, I love building things and seeing that like instant gratification when you make something and it works. It's like, oh, this it's just so nice. I'm sure many people relate to that. So that's how I got into software, or rather back into software. I was already into it, always into it. But AutoQuote 3D was always in the back burner of my mind, or, a version of it. Um, and really, it's really started like 3, 4 years ago. I started playing around with it, seeing like, can I do it? Is it feasible? Like, what is the price like to run the infrastructure? But at the time, I really didn't have the experience or the knowledge to really get it executed. But now I do. And AutoQuote really started with like a very simple proof of concept. It's like, can I upload a part on a web browser and slice it and get back a price? That's the core offering of AutoQuote 3D. And the answer was yes, I can. Is it fast enough? It is fast enough. Can I make it faster in the future? Yes. And that was really the proof of concept for me that kind of ignited the whole thing. And I'm really a strong believer that like if you make software that you would want to use yourself, or really anything that you would want to use yourself, a service, software, whatever, you just have a lot more kind of fire in you to solve the problem, and you have an opinionated way to do it rather than trying to solve a problem that you have no business solving. So yeah, that's how it came about. And really versions wise, it's just like constant iteration, making it better, continuously better. And I guess to answer your last question, like how did I know it was ready for the market? I didn't. We talked in those early stages, and you saw how it was. There was like a gazillion feature requests, a gazillion things that didn't work exactly how they're supposed to. Um, you know, so it's just constant iteration, listening to feedback from you, from other customers, and just making it better every day. That's the plan.
That's an amazing story. And I just want to correct you there. It doesn't just take time to do software development, it also takes talent. Otherwise, I would be a programmer too. But no, you got to have a very good grasp of systems to design something where it makes sense for everybody to use. But thank you for that answer. The next question I have for you is, you talked a little bit about how you love getting feedback and then reiterating so that it becomes a better and better product. Tell me about some of the feedback that you've procured from our existing client base right now, and maybe an example that you have that kind of changed the way you looked at the software, and maybe you've implemented a new feature based on some of that feedback.
I think the most influential feedback was very early on, before it was even before people could even buy it or pay for it. We kind of went out there, and just displayed it to some people that might be interested. And I showed them how it works, and everybody was like, "Yeah, this is nice. I can see myself using it," which was, it's good. But their number one problem is that it was fully automatic, which is funny because that's the goal of AutoQuote 3 to fully automize, is that the right word? Whatever. To make it fully automatic to get quotes out to clients and get orders through the pipeline and make money, right? Just save you time so that you can focus on something else, marketing, whatever it is. But people said, no, full auto does not work because I don't want to accept every job. I want to look at every job and make sure that I can print it, that there's no issues, the files are good, not corrupt, and all those things. And that completely shifted how AutoQuote 3D worked. Instead of going fully automatic, now there's like a step where people put in their credit card, and then it goes into this like let's call it like an escrow stage, um, waiting for the business or the operator to review the part, and then they can choose to decline or accept it, right? Which now that it's implemented and now that it's been told to me, it's like totally makes sense. Even back when I was doing the 3D printing business, I will look at the part and then decide if I can print it, if it's even printable, if it even needs to be printed. Um, right. So it's like a make sense situation, but when you're like, you have blinders on and you're just trying to make something work and do the best you can, you maybe don't consider all the options. So that was like a big shift in how AutoQuote 3D works. So now there's like three different levels. There's like full auto, there's like assisted, which is how I described it now, and there's also fully manual, where like it's basically just a really opinionated form for 3D printing. So that was a big feature. But then there's
Yeah,
a lot
for
of feedback that
operators,
comes. Yeah.
sorry about that. For operators of 3D printing businesses, I think that's the first thing we think of when we get even a potential order is what caveats are there in printing this print? Is it time? Is it material? Is it size? There's just so many caveats that we automatically think about that I think it did drive that assisted feature. And honestly, that assisted feature is perfect right in the middle between manual and assisted, at least for us, and how it's tuned. And thankfully, we kind of came up to that conclusion that that was a really good fine middle point between everything. But it's still got all the great automated features of like emailing your customers and giving them updates. I think those are the things where it can absolutely be fully automated, and it is because those are kind of cookie cutter email updates for customers that we have to do on a manual basis if we didn't have this. But
Mhm.
we don't have to do that anymore. We don't even think about that. It's just automatically going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And like just kind of a little bit more about the feedback and how the software improves every day is there's literally a big feedback button on the back end for people to put in their feedback. And it's not used very, very often. Like a lot of people just have my email. They just email me. Sometimes I get on calls with the customers just to see how they're doing, see what they like, don't like, hate, love. And like small things come out of it. It's like, okay, so we can add materials, we can set the print dimensions, the maximum print dimensions. But what if I have like ABS and I don't want to print 1,000 by 1,000 by 1,000 prints? I don't want to accept those. I want to limit for just that specific material, the print sizes, right? So now that's a feature that's implemented, right? And usually it's pretty quick, like somebody kind of utters a feature or a request that makes total sense, and within a week it's out there. So that's how we continuously just make the software better. And it's not like when we add features we jack up the prices. That's not the case. We are gonna probably keep these prices for some amount of maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years. But even then, the infrastructure. And I guess I want to touch on that. Like the core thing for AutoQuote 3D is to remain very, very affordable for anybody, no matter if you're like a tiny business of one person or like a huge business, right? We want to make sure that like you're not thinking twice about automating your 3D printing operation. Like we want to make sure that it's just an assistant that helps you get things done, and an assistant doesn't have to be thousands of dollars a month, which is the case right now in the industry. So we'll keep adding features, and maybe there's going to be more tiers or some add-ons that some people will pay more for, but the core offering will remain in that range that we have now.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really important and fundamental to kind of your founding principles when we first spoke about this project. And I think, not only is it going to help everyone else, but if you think how to start a 3D printing business, you literally just need a 3D printer, a website, and the widget. And you can pretty much start
Yep.
getting your feet wet and becoming a very professional business for 3D printing service. And I think that's something that has been missing in the industry for a long time because we've been selling hardware for such a long time that sometimes we don't think about the software component. And the software component is what you need to kind of run the business from a pricing, collecting of information, prospecting, processing payments, and then ultimately to workflow development and delivery. So I think
Yeah. Think
that
think about
really
how
rounds
many
out everything we need.
think about how many things you just listed that I think AutoQuote 3D solves a lot of them. Like the mental overhead of running a business is pretty huge, right? And getting a software that is specific for a use case, in this case 3D printing, is just a no-brainer, right? Like if you can automate quoting, if you can automate like order tracking, if you can automate like all of these back-end things on a simple web interface, you don't have to think about any of it anymore. You can just focus on doing two things: is printing things for people, making sure that you provide really good quality parts, and two, like marketing yourself, right? And spending that time and effort, like talking to your customers and maybe spending some money on ads, now that you have the time to do so, and you're not like trying to juggle like Excel spreadsheets and emails and all these things and tracking, what stage each order is in, and informing your customers. A lot of times, like that specific point, informing your customers, like totally like glossed over. And you have like businesses that take your parts, take your money, and then like 5 days later, it's like, oh, your part is ready. But like you don't know what happened in between
Yeah.
in those 5 days. You don't know when it printed. You don't know when it got quality controlled, when it shipped. You just get an email, or maybe not even that. You just get your part in the in the mail. So I think that constant interaction with the customers is something that was also worked into AutoQuote 3D in a meaningful way.
And I think even though that starter package is only $15 a month, I think it's very, very understated because if you are a single owner operator of a business, you don't have any other time other than printing, basically getting your printers continuously printing to make money, to do all the quoting back and forth and keeping your customers appraised of the situation. So I think without that tier, a lot of single owner operators would not be able to run as proficiently and efficiently as they can with just the software and the hardware, the starter tier for AutoQuote 3D. So I think that is one of the biggest things in my mind that is a game changer for the industry, where now we can have a single owner operator be fairly efficient running several machines and running the quoting system, prospecting while they're sleeping, or running the machine and still taking orders.
Yep. Yep.
All right. I want to not keep you too long, but I want to get to a couple of just two last things, which is you've talked about all the upgrades you've improved. And honestly, I've seen a tremendous amount of upgrades since we first started working on the system. But what have you got for a sneak peek into the future?
Sneak peek in the future, the main thing right now is speeding up quoting times. Even 20, 30, 40 seconds for a part may seem very fast, but customers rarely have any patience. And we know this. The first one to reply to an email for a quote probably wins. And if you are losing your customers because they're waiting 20 seconds and they're leaving the page, then you have to follow up with them. We don't want that. So number one is reducing the quoting times to, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 50% faster. That's top of mind right now. The other things would be, we don't have a very straightforward way to apply discounts right now. That's another thing that we're working on. Really complex discount structure, first time customer discounts. If you are like a really loyal customer, you have a loyal customer and you have 10 orders, starting at 10 orders, you'll get 5% off automatically. Like that's a heavily requested feature as well. And then some AI stuff I think is in the pipeline as well, like a really knowledgeable chatbot that kind of has knowledge into the part that you're uploading and can recommend the right material for your application. That's something that we're working on as well. But the number one thing is quoting times. That's really important for customers and the businesses that run AutoQuote 3D. And that is the core offering of AutoQuote 3D, fast quoting times. So we want to make sure that that's improved this year.
That's fantastic, and a fantastic roadmap, and I'm looking forward to all the features. Speed, of course, is absolutely important, like the way you're saying it, but I gotta say, even just looking back before AutoQuote 3D, we would have to take that file from the customer, put it into the slicer, slice it, put that value of how big it is into our manually customized spreadsheet, get the price out and email the customer back. As fast as you can be if you're doing it all day, it's still a couple minutes. And here we're talking, 30 to 40 seconds, 20 seconds, 10 seconds for smaller parts. And we're saying that that's slow. So it's come a long way, but I think we've set the bar really high. And I think you're absolutely right. Once people get used to it, that instant quoting of 20 seconds, they're going to expect 5 seconds down the road.
Yep, 100%.
Fantastic. So, any parting words from you, Felix, in terms of AutoQuote 3D and what we can expect?
Yeah, no, I can say that if you're running a 3D printing business, definitely give out a quote a try. It's $15. You can try it for 1 month. It works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't. The other thing that I want to touch on is like if you notice that Aqua 3D goes 60% of the way for you, don't hesitate to email us. That's the really cool thing about the stage that we're at is that every single customer that we have has impact on what we're working on. So if you're very vocal and you can communicate what it is you need, and we can abstract it so that it works for everybody else, you have a real say in where this software will be in a year from now. So I really encourage anybody that's thinking about it to just try it out. Of course.
And to quickly add my 2 cents in there, it's there's a little bit of difference between AutoQuote 3 and some other software pieces where it's not a software company making software for the sake of having software. It's a bunch of 3D printing experts that have a very strong opinion on what would help other 3D printing experts and service bureaus out there do better in their business, make their business more efficient. And I think that is really what we're keeping an eye on when we're developing this product. It's not for the sake of just having software. It's critical in the 3D printing industry. And it's a very basic thing that everybody is going to use every day. So I think that's what we're going to focus on improving. And Felix, I want to really thank you for your time today and for your original inspiration to take the plunge and create AutoQuote 3D.
And no, it's my pleasure. It's been a ride, and I can't wait to see where it ends.